How are we doing out there? Yes, it's me. So, what do we want to talk about today is something that I've been thinking about these past few days. So I feel inclined to talk about it, and that's talking about incompatibility. So once we're kind of out there and we've met someone and we've been dating for a little while, we begin to kind of build these ideas, right? We start to build these ideas about spending time and a life with this person. And so what we do is we begin to, to attach to this notion of the one, the person. And so we begin to attach to the idea of spending a life together with someone. But sometimes we forget or we ignore all of the warning signs. And so what we do is we begin to force this compatibility with this person and completely ignoring a lot of the red flags or the showstoppers. What's important about this is that the idea is to be able to go into a relationship with someone and feel empowered and feel centered and feel like that we are in alignment. But what we often do is we confuse incompatibility with having to try harder. That we confuse incompatibility with a direct representation of our self-worth. And so what happens is that we get into a place of self-abandonment. We begin to put the heaviness or the weight of our worth in how we are in this relationship or how this relationship is working out. Even if all the signs are there where you're just not compatible, we attach to this Disney version of the one and we begin to shapeshift. We begin to fawn. We quiet down and we shape ourselves so that we can just hang on to this notion that we want to make this work because this person is compatible with us and all of that other stuff. But we're so committed to that we abandon to the point where we self-abandon to the point where we want to make like circles fit into a square, which is not possible. And so what we do is we need to be able to create an intimate relationship with ourselves, to be truly connected to ourselves. And we do that by, of course, self-introspection. And if you've taken my Unrelationship Blueprint free course, which I have available, you just need to click on my bio. I go through exercises with you to be able to determine how you've shown up in relationship, what messages you've received, how you've shown up in relationships, what yellow flags and the red flags and showstoppers you've ignored in the past for the sake of making it work. Now, relationships are meant to be challenging. There is no doubt, but they're not supposed to be an art of abandonment. They're not supposed to be work. We're not supposed to be trying to fit the puzzle together so we can have this relationship and force compatibility with somebody. We have to get to an understanding, a point where we're with someone is we really need to truly connect to ourselves, connect to what we want and what we don't want. So in part of the course, we talk about this, right? I go through and I have you build a relationship vision so that when you do meet someone, you're able to determine whether you're compatible with this person or not. So, and the reality is, most people are not going to be compatible with you. There is no question. Someone choosing you or finding somebody interesting or having a great time or really enjoying your time together, loving each other, expressing, you have things in common, are all great surface level existence. But compatibility is where we step into our self-worth and really being connected to that person at a deeper level. and we further love ourselves and embrace this journey when we come to realize that we are so connected to ourselves and love ourselves enough that we can walk away from instances of incompatibility. So really we get to a place where we need to be kind of honest with ourselves. We need to be able to step back and say, this person is just not compatible. Our lives are very different. And there's many signs to that. And I have a list, and I'm gonna go through a list of signs of incompatibility that you may be ignoring. But the first sign you're going to find is that the relationship feels exhausting. It feels draining. It feels like you need to force things. You're not in a place of flow, right? That's the kind of the best way you can do it. You're not in a place of creative flow where things are just kind of rolling in and they're happening. And I get it. There are instances where people's lives are different, and we all carry these different responsibilities, whether we have children, we don't have children, whether we have a very demanding career or we're an entrepreneur. And so some of the common signs of incompatibility that cannot be ignored, and I must repeat, cannot be ignored, to save yourself the headache and the heartache and trying to fit something that is not working, is looking at the relationship and it just generally feels tiring, like you're pushing for the relationship to work. So that's one of the clear signs of incompatibility. Easy ones, they don't show up for you. Not available, always busy. They put other people as a priority to the relationship. And these are signs of incompatibility. If someone is not there for you, if someone's not going to show up for you or is not available for you, this is a sign of incompatibility. And the moment that you begin to see that someone is not available for you, you begin to suffer, you begin to doubt yourself, you begin to wonder whether this person is really going to ever be there for you. So all of these thoughts begin to creep up. And so we create these stories that this person is not available because maybe we're not worthy, or they're not that interested, or not that into us. But it's not so much that they're not that into us. It's not so much that you're not worthy of, because you're worthy. And I always say that relationships are always a direct representation. Relationships are always the happiness in them is your birthright. Your birthright to be able to be happy and joyous in your relationship. It's your birthright. It's not something that you need to level up to, or something that you need to buy into or be worthy of. You are worthy of a happy relationship. When someone doesn't show up for you and it's painful, it's not a representation of you. It could be a sign of incompatibility. Your lives are just very different. And so it's so important for us not to move away from this fact. This is the reality of how their life is and how your life is, and the misalignment of values and what's important. So the common signs of incompatibility, I have a list because it's so important for me to go through it all, is just having a lack of empathy with regards to the differences that you have. Just tuning into the differences that you have and realizing that, it's okay. It may not work. You're just not a good fit. And so often we ignore these signs because we are programmed and we are meant to believe that there's this Disney bullshit version of how a relationship should be. You meet someone, you fall in love, and they're the one, and we obsess of being the one. And we look if incompatibilities over there on the wall. This is what we do. We completely go blind and realize and accept the fact that there isn't full compatibility. Sure, you're dating at the beginning. It's great. Could be 6 months, could be a year. But if you're ready to take the relationship to the next level and things are just not working, they're not meshing properly, there is signs of incompatibility. So we can't ignore those, right? We can't be in la la land and pretend, okay? This is it. Because what we do is we set ourselves up for failure. And in my relationship blueprint course, I talk about, like I mentioned before, red flags and yellow flags and things to look for and showstoppers in someone, where the moment you take I believe is in part 4 of the course, is you begin to see the subtle signs of incompatibility. And so what we do is the course was designed, and it's completely free, of course, was designed to look back at your relationship patterns and realize what shit you've ignored and what heartache you could have completely, I want to say avoided, but I think avoidance of discomfort and pain is not a way that we grow. But you could have made a better loving choice. Let's talk about that. So if any of this is ringing true, feel free to chime in. What is your experience with being in a relationship in the past, and then 6 months later, 6 years later, you go, holy shit, I can't believe that I tried to force this thing, and realizing that we weren't even compatible. Okay. Hi, Christine. I need to hear that today. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate it. So yeah, if you have if this is triggering you, right? If this is triggering, especially with people dealing with relationship anxiety, where you feel disconnected to your partner, or you've had that before and you feel disconnected from your partner, and everything I'm saying is maybe triggering you, this is a great sign, right? Where we're able to go back and do some of this introspective work so we can get better. The whole point along this relationship journey with self is to understand ourselves better, so we can make better, loving, centered, value-filled alignment choices from a place of empowerment, from a place of a loving place, as opposed to desperation and clinginess and all that ugliness, right? So, other signs. The relationship makes you feel disconnected to yourself and what's important to you. So, some easy examples, right? You want to create a certain type of life together. Or let's keep it simple, a simple experience. And suddenly you're just not feeling it. You're not being yourself. Again, you feel disconnected from yourself. Things that are important to you are not being honored by the other person in the relationship. Again, this is not a representation of the other person. There are many instances, and I have some really close friends that just recently went through a separation, and it had nothing to do with love. It had nothing to do with what they wanted to create. They were just in different places at this moment. So at this moment, there was lack of compatibility. And so these are some of the signs that are there. So if you can't be yourself in this relationship, if you are abandoning yourself, you're disconnected from yourself, if things that are important to you are not being honored, you're not in alignment. And I want to stress this because so many of us forget this exercise. We forget this. I know I went from relationship to relationship to relationship, fawning or morphing or whatever the other synonyms are, to the type of lifestyle that the other person wanted to live. Sorry about the chair noise. Apparently it's a problem. And so what happens is good for a little while, and then you tolerate. And I'll say for this, my example, I tolerated certain situations. I tolerated the lifestyle. I tolerated the way I wanted to live. And you slowly begin to abandon yourself. But I ignored all of the signs. I ignored all of the times where something didn't feel right, where it should have been a no, and I said yes. And that is the abandonment of self, where you start to morph and you become someone else. You become a fake version of yourself, an inauthentic version of yourself. And then you wonder why you feel like shit. You wonder why there is conflict. You wonder why there's inner conflict. You wonder why you create drama. You have this energy inside you where you're not aligned. And so it's so important here that you be yourself 100% of the time. Because if you're not, you're just setting yourself up for heartache. You're just setting yourself for disillusion. You create all of these things in hopes that maybe the relationship will change. Because maybe you're looking for safety. Because you just want to have somebody in your life. Because you're not comfortable with being alone. Or you say, yes, I want to be alone, but then you have a hard time self-actualizing. Okay, so I just want to go to the comments. Hey, Robbie, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Christine, at this moment, you stop being yourself, or you put the light inside you smaller to please. You betrayed yourself. You're absolutely right, Christine. And this is what the point I want to get to is that if you're not being your authentic self, your light dims, right? And I think, Christine, this is what you're referring to is you're dimming your light. And the moment that we dim our light, we're not our true authentic self. We're not being that soul connected to ourselves. You know, we go to these phases, and then we start getting into conflict, and then we start trying to force something that was never meant to work. This is the common signs of incompatibility that I'm talking about. If things weren't meant to work, they're not going to work. Like it's no point trying to force. You know when you're playing with Legos when you were a kid? I know I did this. I tried to force the one piece to be able to fit because I just wanted to make it work. I wanted the pieces to go together. You know, you had the puzzle. I think they had puzzle ones, right? And sometimes you lose 2 or 3 pieces, and then you try to make it work. But it's just like a foundation of a house, guys. It's just a foundation of a house. If you don't have this foundational compatibility and the foundation isn't strong, so any of you that understand any kind of basic engineering, or if you ever played the game Jenga, if the bottom pieces are not set up right, once you start getting to the top of the tower, it's all going to fall over. Okay, so that's enough metaphors for now. Okay. So, another sign is a common one that I experienced in the past is, and that's what this list comes from, my experience, because here we are. We spend more time worrying about the relationship than actually creating a solid relationship vision, a relationship connection. So what do I mean by that? So in the course, in the relationship blueprint, hopefully you've taken it. If not, just go to my bio. Is I talk about creating a relationship vision. So the relationship vision is really that it's a type or form of a blueprint where you're setting up what you want the relationship to look like. So here's an example for the relationship I'm currently in. She's not on right now, but hopefully she can chime in. Is that we've created this relationship on how we want to live our own life. So I know for me, travel and freedom and doing this work are all important to me. Living in alignment with nature, being able to feel free, because I worked in corporate for 17 years, and if anyone's ever worked in corporate, you realize how much freedom you actually lose by doing something that you don't really like. Again, that's a different video. And then we built a relationship vision, and we refined that relationship vision in the relationship itself. How do we want it to look like together? And then we are adults about it. And we need to do this early. This relationship now was birthed in the middle of early on in this pandemic. So now we're at a point where like, hey, we're having a great time. Guys, this is how it works, okay? We're having a great time. We're compatible. It's great. We have commonalities. We have the same values. We want to go to the same way. Signs of compatibility are promising. We went through the yellow flags individually as red flags, showstoppers. We did all of that. That's also in the course, okay? So this journey is along this, creating this relationship, is feeling empowered. So when you go through these exercises, you begin to feel whole. You begin to feel like you know yourself. You know what you won't put up with, etc., etc., etc. And then we created a relationship vision that we want to have together. I think there's a mosquito in here. Okay, so we want to create a life that we're together. And so now we're going through the process of creating a relationship blueprint that works for us and how we want to live our life. And being adults about it is coming to the understanding that there is a possibility, there is a small possibility that there may be incompatibility based on where we are right now in our life and where we want our life to be. Not because we don't care about each other, not because we don't love each other, not because we don't respect each other. In fact, we respect ourselves enough to be adult enough to say, hey, after we've done this relationship vision, I am not sure, or we are uncertain, and this is where we get curious on how our life is going to look together. Whatever life means, okay? Could be the life of the relationship. If it's not expansive, not interested. Hello, darling. She's finally joined. Thank you. I was talking about incompatibility in creating a relationship vision. So I was just telling the rest of the group that is on here that it is our responsibility as adults. And I want to share that we are going to be spending some time together in Guatemala soon. We leave on Monday. And we're going to be working on our relationship vision so that we are in alignment. And it is our responsibility to look at that relationship vision and realize whether there are levels of incompatibility. So that throughout our relationship, we don't go through these incompatibility signs. And the last one I meant is worrying about whether the relationship is fulfilling for the other person, or whether I'm keeping too busy figuring out whether we're a great fit and whether this is going to work, as opposed to relating and connecting to each other. Because fulfilling relationships, which, like I always say, is your birthright, is about spending time connecting to yourself, but also connecting to the other person and the relationship. What's up, JP? How are you, man? Long time no see. So this is what the relationship vision is about. So the common signs of incompatibility. Okay, I'm going to list them through because it's important for those of you who have joined late. And if it's a replay, great, you can go back to it. The relationship feels draining and exhausting. The person doesn't show up for you if they're too busy. There are significant differences in your values, your life goals, your belief systems, all of that stuff. The relationship makes you feel disconnected to yourself and what's absolutely important to you. You can't be yourself, so you abandon yourself. You fawn, you shapeshift. You are a person that is not authentic. Okay. And the other one, as I mentioned last, is you spend more time worrying about the relationship than connecting to one another. And there are many other signs of incompatibility. But remember, guys, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about as you're in months in or a few months into a relationship. The unrelationship blueprint is to set you up to get to this point. So that's why it's so important to go to my bio, take the course. It's like 4 days. It's 2 or 3 hours worth of work. But what it does is it prepares you. It prepares you for understanding yourself, what's important to you, what you value, what your patterns were in the past, how you've shown up, the messages that you heard, how your subconscious works. Then we get into other things like not ignoring yellow flags, red flags, and getting in alignment with who you are, who you want to be, what you want in a relationship, creating a personal relationship vision. And I even get into an exercise about a dream date and what that looks like, and beginning to embody that relationship. So that when we meet somebody, this is it's like a preparation thing, but really quick 2 to 3 hour prep that so many of us ignore. It's like, what was that thing in university or whatever? Like there's a 101, like the 101 course, right? It's like the first one you need to take, and 101 is a prerequisite to 102. This is what it is. This is a preparation. So even if you are in a relationship or dating somebody, it's okay, because you can go back to this, refer to it, and then go to your partner and say, hey, you know what? I was doing this exercise this awesome guy Mike Finelli has, and on this course, and he was talking about creating a relationship vision. And I'm not sure if we have that. And so a relationship vision is a blueprint to how you want the relationship to be and how you want to feel. And so there's an exercise in there that allows you to do that. So if this is triggering you in some way, if this is making you think, or maybe you've been in relationships in the past and you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize how incompatible we were. And those of us that know me well know that I've been in one or two relationships where I was trying to force something to work when all the signs were there that it was not. It has nothing to do with not loving the other person. It's not about caring about the other person. It's about understanding that there is incompatibility. And the sooner we can realize that there are signs of incompatibility and adulting and realizing that this is what it is, we can make better loving choices. We can stop repeating these relationship patterns, jumping from one to another. So I think this is all I had for today. And I guess the question to you guys that are on, reflecting, if you reflect back to your past experiences, what are some of the signs of incompatibility look like for you that you've ignored? Because this is important. So what in your dating experience, whether it's been with somebody for 6 months, 2 years, or 6 years, there had to have been signs of incompatibility. So what signs did you see that maybe in your dating experience you could have seen earlier? And so one of them for me was in my a couple of experiences ago, or maybe the last one, is that I ignored the signs of the relationship type that this person was more aligned with. So for me, I felt more enmeshment, let's say, without abandonment. And the other person liked more of the individualism as opposed to the enmeshment. And what I say by enmeshment is like a healthy enmeshment, right? Where there is compatibility, right? So Robbie, yeah, different lifestyles, 100%. It's important. If someone's a digital nomad, which is very popular now, and it will be, especially after all this bullshit. If someone is a digital nomad and their lifestyle is, I want to travel the world and I want to work from anywhere, and I don't need a home base. I just want to go from place to place because I can earn a living and I want to enjoy that type of lifestyle. Great. But it's not going to work with someone that they value being grounded, having roots somewhere. And so what happens is that there is incompatibility, right? There is your value of being grounded is in direct conflict with that other person's lifestyle choice. And that's a reality. We live in an age where we have all of the ability to live a life the way we want to live life in all shapes, forms, and sizes. And so this is where we begin to look at what the relationship blueprint is. What kind of lifestyle do we want to live? And the earlier we can do this, the more loving choices we can make, and the more we can avoid unnecessary heartache. Heartache will happen. This is how we grow. Your heart opens up, it mends, and it grows. Right? It's like that thing I saw. What was it about how a lobster sheds its shell. It grows out of it, it loses it, and then it grows another one. So, Diana, hi Diana. I think we have preconceived notions of what a relationship needs to be as opposed to allowing a relationship just to happen. You're absolutely right, and this is a great point. So in the relationship blueprint, if you click on my bio, if you want to take the free course, is it one of the first things that I talk about is what messages have you heard and seen directly and indirectly? Have you heard about relationship, about communication, about sex, about lifestyle, and any out of the category you want to talk about, including religion? Is we are built with those messages as we're growing up. And so we build these preconceived notions Diana's mentioning about. And we take those into relationship. We take them into these relationships, and then we have this blueprint in our head on how the relationship should be. We have these fixed notions based on the messages that we have. So in there's an exercise for you to get clear on what are those messages that you heard, the indirect messages you heard, and how you can create very differently going forward, and having an adult conversation with someone. Not to bring age into this, but this is all fine and dandy when we're teenagers and we're experimenting. I mean, we suck at relationships when we're like 18 anyway. But as we begin to adult, right, we begin to make better, loving choices. And I always talk about choice because everything is a choice. Our life doesn't change unless we change the choices that we've made, right? So thank you, Dana. That's a great point. So I'm just going to scroll through here. Sorry if my phone gets shaky, but it's on a stand that is not stable. What about after 20 years? Yes, that's a valid point. We believe that just because you're in a relationship, whether it's 5-year, 10-year, or 20-year, there's always a relationship or multiple relationships within relationships. There will always be ebbs and flows because we grow as people. If you're in a growth-oriented mindset, then the relationship will continue to grow. People change. People go through experiences. Values change. I also have a free gift on my website, mikefinelli.com/values. Take that, because that puts you in touch with your values, what's important to you. And once you know what's important to you, you can live a life of alignment. It's kind of part of that foundation I was speaking about earlier in the video. So what happens is people's values change. I always say that what your values are 6 months from now may be completely different. And so what we do is, if we are in a relationship, we start to notice our partner changing. And I have one of my videos on my YouTube channel where people say, "You've changed," right? And people say that. So with every level of any sarcastic remark, there's a level of truth, because something about you changing is bothering them. So even after 20 years, we go through shifts, and we go through changes. And so this, by tapping into our values, we're able to see. And when people's values change as adults, this is where we begin to have a continuous building of this relationship vision, and doing check-ins and checking if you're continue to be in alignment. A lot of the messages that we received, and a lot of the things that we put value on, is that if you're with somebody for 20 years, means that you're in a happy relationship. Happy people are in happy relationships, right? So whether you've been together for 5 years or you've been together for 25 years, it is a constant avenue for us. Look, relationships force us to expand. Okay? And I'm not shy to say this. A healthy relationship doesn't lack conflict. It requires growth. It requires for the other person to be there and show up. And I appreciate your comments, and I promise I will get to all your questions. Okay, so hang tight. Okay, so my girlfriend and I had a bit of a something. Okay, and something was brought to my attention, and it revolved around conflict and drama. So, and I'm not afraid to say it, that when we are brought up in a household where we saw, and this is part of the exercise in the Unrelationship Blueprint, on what we saw growing up, if we saw a lot of drama and conflict, we often get attached to that. We get attached to that. And I'm going off on a bit of a tangent. So what's important for us is to be able to connect to the fact that even after 20 years, the relationship will continue to challenge us. And it is our responsibility to continue to do this introspective work. so that we can expand and continue to be happy and stay in healthy relationships that are in alignment. Now, this is far beyond the notions of incompatibility and relationship vision. JP, you talked about vision, but relationship is not static. We need constant work to redefine our visions and objectives. 100%, 100%, but that's exactly what I was referring to. It is a constant evolution. We are meant to grow. If we grow, we die. I don't know if that was from Tony Robbins, or I don't remember where that's from. But it is constant work. Relationships are meant to challenge us. So this is how we expand. This is how we grow. This is how we make change in our life, in our relationships. And we need to. We need to do that. We need to do that for ourselves, for our society, and for our children. Exactly. We need to free our minds of learned patterns. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is where we need to, this is why I called it Unrelationship Blueprint, because we need to unlearn some of the shit that we learned growing up. Because even though from the outside, a lot of our relationship looked happy and expansive, sometimes not having the conversations to avoid conflict is actually dysfunctionality, because then we stay quiet and our light dims, and we talked about our light before. So there are many relationships inside of one relationship. As we evolve, we should envision it again. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Margie. And yes, we did talk. We definitely talked about that. Hey, bud, that just happened to my boss. His wife filed for divorce because she said he has changed, but we all change. That is the concept. 100%. 100%. Thanks for joining, guys. Thank you so much. There's going to be a replay. I'm going to save it. It's going to be a replay. So if you want to go back to that, I am going to begin to wrap it up. So again, guys, the purpose of this journey is for us to reconnect to our authentic self, to our best version of ourselves, to not tolerate, I have a list of my vision is people, we don't want to put up with bullshit, and know that we want to live in joy and happy in relationships. We want to stay connected to ourselves. These are all the values that this is what my work is about. This is you guys right here. You want to raise your standards. You want to push yourself beyond your comfort zone because you had enough of the old patterns. And one of the things that we need to look at is what this video was about, and then went off into a lot of other things, was do not ignore these signs of incompatibility. Guys, if this has been amazing, if you've enjoyed this, I would love share with someone that you love, a like. I'm on MikeFinelli.com. I have free gifts that I talked about there. Have a look at my bio to my different things. So yeah, I appreciate your time, and have an amazing day. I need to go prep to go on this journey with my baby, and we'll see you on the next live. Hopefully I can do one while I'm in Guatemala. I'm really manifesting that we have solid internet there. Again, thanks for your time, guys, and we'll see you the next time. Thanks.